I think that what bothered me was, obviously we went into the season expecting obviously not this. And then you at least I try to see things from a different perspective, and trying to understand what I was given and what I was shown in this last season. And for me, that line, the winning line, was just like, for me, it was made to put that nail in the coffin in his villainization.
Nick on the plane, the
Yeah,
winning, you chose the winners.
he chose the winning side. And there's a lot of people speculating on social media. I'm not going to get into that. But for me, it was just like, oh, I chose Gilead for whatever reason, whether Rose told him, whether he lost June, whether it was just still completely out of character. You had, since season 3, when you made him a commander, to show what you said. There were a lot of things he did that we didn't show you. It doesn't work that way, because what you showed me was always a conflict. What you showed me, there was always a dislike. There was always I'm uncomfortable. Even if he did the things he did for June, there were still things that would have put him in the wall. There were still dangerous things. Obviously, in the books, Nick was Mayday, and I know the show deviated obviously from the book. But if they were going to deviate so much, they could have just given Hannah at the end of the fucking episode, which is what most people wanted, and just change the testaments. If you were going to deviate completely. So for me, I was always expecting Nick to eventually be Mayday, even if you made him a commander in season 3.
Right.
Mhm.
But when you made him a commander in season 3, if this is a route that you were going to take, you should have planted that seed then. You can't plant that seed after episode 7. Not even after episode 7, because even if I analyze what you gave me in season 6, Nick is still Nick until he says that line.
Yep.
Mhm.
It's all about the line. And it's like, oh, that's who he always was. He was always selfish. How can you tell me that he was selfish if every time that we saw him, he was doing something for June? I understand that people wanted him to join the good guys, but didn't we just talk about, did Lawrence really join the good guys? Did Serena really join the good guys? Like, that's not how it works in real life.
And everything that we do see Nick doing, even the things that aren't for June, there are a lot of quiet examples of him doing good with his situation, doing good in his position. Like, from where he's standing, from where he's trapped, he's still trying to do these small acts of goodness, kindness, of making a small difference for people. And yes, it's great that there are these big heroic swings that are apparently working out in a few days to bring Boston down. That's great. Another thing that feels incredibly unrealistic that we'll get into.
Bringing Boston down is like also a really nice example of how they are bombing the city, right? They are bombing Boston. The Americans are bombing Boston, right?
Yeah.
I did get this right. I did see the scene, right?
You did.
Nobody explained it to me in an interview. I did see it happening.
Yeah.
Which means there are people, econo people, who are just victims of the system. They're not commanders. They're not wives or guardians. They are like normal, unfortunate people still living there. It's like the bombing of, German cities is like kind of the same. It's just civilians, even though they were like the current war in Ukraine and Russia. You can compare it to every war. These are civilians. They are not actual believers just because they have to live there under this system. Mm-hmm. And they happily threw bombs on them, and you will still try to tell me that this is not the same as every other war action in every other city, and that this makes it okay for the Americans to take over the city like in that way.
Well, and especially because they do show a contrast with Nick through the season of, him not wanting innocent people to die. They said that multiple times throughout this season, and I think in previous seasons.
Yeah.
And it shows a real good example of a real person, a human being, not a hero, not a superhero, but a real person trying to do these things that he can do from his position to help. And it's just, that's what we've seen. We haven't seen him doing horrendous things with his own agency.
Intentions of power, like looking for power.
Right. He hasn't made the choice to do these things in a malicious way. And there was a quote from Yalin Chang recently where she said, he has done some bad things and we haven't shown them, so it was convenient to forget. So we're forgetting what they never showed us. How does that make any sense?
Of course, obviously, I always forget things that never happened. It's just normal, right? That you don't remember anything that never happened. I mean, makes sense.
I think we could have fill in the blanks, which is what they're trying to tell us. Like the same way that you're telling me that he was doing bad things, he could have been doing good things.
Exactly.
Except that you decided in episode 9 to make sure that he chose Gilead. And it's like, you could have shown him to me making plans, going to Jezebel's. You could have given me something, don't tell me it was the Swiss. Don't tell me it was what Serena said, because all of the things that you've given me in past seasons have a history, have a reason, we've seen it. There's an interpretation for it, not a justification, because no one's saying that he's innocent. Just like Lawrence, just like Serena, just like Aunt Lydia, he has blood on his hands. Yes. But to expect me to equate him or see him as any other commander just because he made one mistake, as the interviews I've read in interviews, like, oh, he made one mistake, he's human, and not give him the grace that you gave every other character is just insane to me. Like, I understand the shock value. I understand they can't please, I'm sorry, every fan base, but you could have landed it in a better way.
Exactly.
Like, if you wanted to make him bad, make him bad. If you wanted to kill him, it still would have hurt, because obviously we're here because he's one of our favorite characters, but give him a real death that goes to his character and what you showed us for 5.5 seasons. And that's not what they did, at least not in my eyes. And I know that a lot of us agree.
Yeah, exactly. And then also in that regard, it's not just you joined the winners line, but then also topping this with episode 10's line of June, where she said to Serena that he reaped what he sowed, which is what Nick told Fred when he delivered him to her in the last episode of season 4, to just, again, for all the listeners, that he got rid of another cruel commander after Gafri and after Putnam and after Cushing. He helped take down all those really cruel rapists and stuff, people who were responsible for the Handmaid system and things like this. So you as you said, you're putting this person who did nothing but help June survive, which she actually said in season 3 on her tape to her husband Luke, that he helped her survive, which is a truth, because he was never cruel to her or any other woman. He had the utmost respect for everyone, for Rita, for Serena, for Rose, for Beth, for the Mothers he talked to in season 4. And he was a commander. He had more power than them at that situation, but they were treating him like one of them.
Yeah,
this is a fact. We did see this. We have lines. He tried to get information on Hannah and stuff like this. He's proudly reuniting families in New Bethlehem because this is what he tells his father-in-law, Wharton, that he already got 26 families reunited.
Yeah.
And this is something he's proud of. This is good things he
can do from where he's at.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he knows that he's still trapped in Gilead, and he knows that he's done things and he's regretting them. But what he can do within the system he's trapped in now is things like reuniting families, at least.
To piggyback on that episode 10, there's not only that line, there's also he led a violent and dishonest life, which was also, those two lines for me ruined the whole experience, because it was completely out of left field. Who, what, who are you talking? Did you forget that you ate Fred's face? Which I loved, don't get me wrong. I loved the ending of season 4. I have no complaints whatsoever. But we saw you literally eating Fred's face, and you're saying that Nick led a dishonest and violent life. And then on top of that, it's Serena, the one that tells her, if he had a choice, he would have chosen you. So the show is telling me that Nick never had a choice, even though people say he had choices. Apparently he didn't have choices. And then in episode 10, the same show that in an interview told me that all commanders were bad are telling me that Suelo is not a captain, he's a commander. and that Emily ended with a good commander. So what is the message? I'm confused.
Like also like on the good and bad commander notion. I mean, the painting of which already started in episode 2 of the season, like when Mom Holly called him Nazi. And this got explored again when Luke says the same after he gave away the plan of Mayday. So if you want to introduce these kind of, I don't know, words or whatever to describe a person, like please apply them correctly to every single one who does fit this description, which is also Lawrence because he has power within the system. This is also Serena because she has some kind of power, which is Lydia, every guardian, every commander, every person who has some kind of power within Gilead is a Nazi too.
Every person that just stays in Gilead and doesn't fight against Gilead, that includes the economy people that are trapped there. They could rise up and fight the system as well. I mean, I know it doesn't work that way, but if we're going to generalize and see it black and white, then I guess.
Yeah. But you cannot bring in these big words and then just apply it to one single soul who made mistakes, of course, who is obviously also part of the system. But
yeah, they're measuring Nick's morality on a different scale from every other character.
Exactly. It's not fair that he gets a different treatment also by June. So in generally, I think what the audience feels and sees is obviously the Handmaid's Tale. So it is supposed to be from her perspective in many situations. Obviously, we have scenes where she's not included and we still got descriptions and stuff, but it's still mainly focusing on her story, obviously. And so that the fact that she was able to forgive these 3 characters we mentioned, like Lawrence, Serena, and Aunt Lydia in particular, that it makes sense for her character that she's okay redeeming them by her forgiveness in a way, but not granting the same to Nick, who actually helped her so many times for 5.5 seasons. Just recently also in this season, episode 3, where he and she go on a rescue mission to No Man's Land and get her husband and her best friend out. And also that he gets the letters out from Jezebel when Moira and her were trying to set the plan and Jezebel's in motion, and their map and the letters they received from Janine got locked into the safe.
I think that's also a good place to point out that Nick never does any of this, any of the things that he does for her with any
personal gain,
but also with no assumption that he's going to get credit for it, or he doesn't even tell her about it. He does all of that without ever asking for or expecting credit for any of it. I mean, he literally cleans up June and Moira's crime scene, never mentions it to June. I've got a tooth in my pocket from your mess. Like, that's just a trail of his history of doing things for her and not doing them even with just a pat on the back. Like, I feel that Serena is constantly wanting a pat on the back for every little thing she does.
The one time he decides to be a little selfish, he gets fucked over by the whole season. What I was going to say to that point was June was always a character that tried to look for the good in everybody in Gilead. And I think that was said in an interview. And I think that's kind of part of her character arc. Like, she always expects people to do the right thing. And we see it throughout the seasons. And the fact that she didn't give Nick the one person that helped her that grace is, for me, like, mind-blowing. Because it's like, even if he killed puppies, drank virgin blood, collected body parts that we never saw and that we forgot because we never saw, he didn't do any of that to her. To her, he was her constant, even outside of Gilead, because he didn't look for her when she left. She looked for him because she needed help, because he told her in 4-9, and I'm here to do what I can. So she always, went to him because she knew she could trust him. And just to have it end like this, and she not, the show not given the opportunity to just resolve that, even if he ended up dying. Obviously, they were not going to end up together. We love Nick and June. It was a beautiful romance, but we were not expecting, a rom-com out of this. I know that's what people say a lot on social media. I don't like romance. That's not like the genre I look for. But the way that this was carved was beautifully done. When I saw episode 3 of season 1 and women losing their jobs, that's when I was like, holy shit. And that's what got me hooked. And I always liked Nick's character since the beginning, even though I didn't know what was going on. I always liked his character and I was drawn to him. And yes, I did enjoy the romantic aspects of it, even though it's not usually a genre that I follow or look when I'm like looking to watch a movie or read a book. It was carved very beautifully. And it's not just about the chemistry between the actors, it's just about the whole story. And to be reduced to somebody that just wanted Nick and June, Prince Charming in Paris is really frustrating because the show has a lot of themes, but the show also gave us a love story. The love story was part of June's life and it was part of the book as well.
Mhm.
So there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's part of the discussion. And we can discuss that and discuss how religion fucks shit up and discuss how politics fuck shit up and how men are shitty, how women are shitty, cinematography, art, symbolism. We can talk about all that and talk about romance as well. It's not choose one and pick the other.
Mm-hmm. Beautifully said. I agree on every term. Because like for me, the show drew me in because of the, well, very heavy theme actually, which is partly due because I'm German. So like the history with totalitarian systems and how they affect all people and how it is to get thrown into the system or like get drawn to them through propaganda and stuff like this was always a topic that interested me so much. And this is also why I like Nick's character a lot, because as we discussed about his character is that I always felt that he was just one more victim of the system. This is why he was a driver at the beginning. Like he was like not top notch, you know, and he was clearly also not following the teachings. He was not believing in them. He thought it was cruel what's happening, but like he was all alone. And this is what those systems do. Like they separate people from each other. We get this with the handmaids. Even though they're all handmaids, they mistrust each other.
Yeah, and there is a part in the book that discusses that the handmaids and Martha didn't even trust each other.
Mm-hmm.
And it just reminded me of Nick saying that to Rita in episode 7 of this final season, when he tells her that she shouldn't trust anybody in Gilead and that they would be scared of each other before, or that they were scared of each other before. And this is what is said again about Martha's. And this is again Offred thinking this. If I were to violate decorum to that extent, Rita would not allow it. She would be too afraid. The Marthas aren't supposed to fraternize with us.
Yeah, there's a lot of examples in the show of that between the handmaids, and no one trusts each other.
Yeah, even the handmaids, they're scared of each other.
Like you must trust every single person. This is something that Nick says to Rita, which also made sense to me because it's true. It's like, I mean, it seemed cruel for him to say that to her, but actually I thought it was really relatable because he was right. They were like two people in this household who didn't know each other and didn't know if they were resistance, didn't know if they were true believers, didn't know if they were part of the eye, you know?
Right, trying to survive and under a system that propagates mistrust. I mean, it
exactly.
That's what it wants, is for people not to trust each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's how they prevent you from coming together against them.
Exactly. Yeah. And this is the attention how Margaret Atwood wrote the book. I mean, there's a lovely explanation I don't have at hand at this moment, but she was writing the book when she lived in West Berlin, and she had like a little bit of a different outline when she started it, like at the beginning of the 80s we're talking right now. So like when Germany was still divided, when the wall was still intact between the Western world and the Eastern Soviet world. But she still visited the Eastern countries, like the GDR, where actually my parents grew up in. And they told me stories of their upbringing, of the mistrust they feared of the Stasi, and, and this is why Margaret Atwood also incorporated this into the book. And how the show presented this was really drawing me in. And then obviously, as I said, like Nick was kind of a representative of the everyday guy who just is facing the system every single time, and like not just him, of course, but like every other person as well, except for the higher ups. But it was really interesting how they navigated the world and the decisions they had to make, like especially when he became a commander and got only bad decisions presented in front of him, but he needed to choose one.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's another thing that really connects us to Nick. At this point, I do think that June has become a little bit unrelatable in the sense that they are elevating her as a hero too much to be...
Yeah, relate to, because she's supposed to be any of us.
Yeah,
that's who June is supposed to be.
She was a blank page. She was just a random victim of the system. She was a mother, like some of us are, or like in general, she was just a normal woman with a job.
Yeah.
And she got thrown into this system and needed to, again, as I said, navigate it. So, yeah.
Well, and it's great to see people in that position fighting because it makes you feel like you can make a difference. But when it becomes so centered on her godlike status within the show, it becomes really hard to continue putting yourself in her shoes because that's not me. Like maybe it could be, I don't know. But I just feel like it becomes so far outside of the realm of reality that most of us live in that it stops feeling inspiring to me to watch someone like that.
Yeah, what I liked in the seasons before was that exactly what you're talking about, that she became relatable. Like even there were people that didn't like her decisions. There were people that did. You analyzed why she did this, why she did that. And she made many mistakes, obviously, because she's human. She's not a hero. She's supposed to make mistakes. And every decision you make is going to have a consequence. People are going to die in systems like these. So obviously, we're going to root for her because we want her to win, which is what I was talking about earlier. Like, we just want to see them winning. And for so many seasons, we saw her not winning. It was one after the other, one after the other. And it was harsh, it was bleak. So I did expect to see, yes, like this winning aspect, but I expected for it to be more realistic in terms of what the show had been given us, for so long. Like, I think I mentioned it in another recording. I loved season 4 because they touch on rage, on women rage. And that's not something that we get to see in media. Like, why can't we be as angry as we feel? That for me was like, yes, we're not allowed to be as angry as we feel. Like, that's not accepted in society. And to have it shown and to have the symbolism of what happened with Fred in the end, I know that a lot of people did not like season 4 because it ended that way. And I know that it took away from her humanity to get to that point, but I thought it was beautifully done.
Same.
Obviously, I'm not for vigilante justice. I understand, but she did try to get justice. I understood what Tuello said to her about you have to let a fish go to get bigger fish. It still sucks because she wasn't going to get any justice. That happens every single fucking day. And the fact that she was able to get her justice and that the show did not make her regret it. She does say that it does not bring you peace. But I did not see her regretting her decision.
No.
It was for me something that I do thank the show for giving at least me that.
And to show the allyship that Nick has with her in facilitating that for her.
And understanding.
Yeah.
And not questioning, because again, it might not even be worth saying anymore, but for me, one of the things that drew me to his character was the fact that he's not an overbearing man. And even though he masks his emotions, I do feel that even though in his backstory, he didn't have control of his emotions, Gilead made him have to like kind of hide that part. But I still saw someone that was in tune with his emotions, even though if he was pushing them aside. And we see this season, those emotions when he's talking to June, how he's trapped, how he feels trapped, how he feels. And I thought that was something that was really nice to explore until we got to episode 9, because even when he's telling her we're human, that's what we do, we try to survive. I know that line was harsh, but it's a reality. That's what most people do. People don't sacrifice themselves for Mayday or for the greater good. That is not realistic. If it were, the world wouldn't be what it is. People try to survive,
especially when people that you love are at risk because of it.
Obviously, like I don't plan on killing people, but if somebody puts a gun to my daughter's head and tells me that I have to kill somebody, someone's dying, I'm not going to let my daughter die. I mean, I know that's the dire example, but
no, that's very relatable.
Yeah,
it is what it is. Like, my intention is not to kill anybody ever, but it's a lot more complicated than people maybe see at first hand.
Well, and most of us, thankfully, will never face that decision.
Hopefully.
But this show explores what it is like to actually face that, which is something is difficult to face, but is a necessary part of this particular world that they've established.
Yes. And as you started to say, Aubrey, the problem is that we cannot relate to the protagonist in certain points anymore. It feels a little like it digs too much into savior complex things, especially because we talked about redemptions. And if a redemption is tied to the protagonist's decision, or even worse, if the protagonist enables the redemption by talking the people into thinking about doing things differently. As we have discussed now, that June has a talk to every single person who gets a redemption.
Yeah.
And the person who does not get one, which is Nick, is the one person she does not grant this one by her forgiveness or a real talk.
Any kind of understanding. Yeah. And it sucks because I do feel like it actually used to be inspiring the way that she would push people to be better. That, I mean, in season 1, when she had the conversation with Nick, when they have the kind of, in quotes, breakup in the kitchen, and she's saying, is this enough for you? This bullshit life. Like, it's a very inspiring scene. And I think that that's like very powerful and valid there in that moment, but it just has become so overblown that I just don't relate anymore to her. And I think that they are leaning way too much on her having this huge impact on everyone and saving everything, and she's always the one in charge, and because of that things are actually happening, like as if all these other people don't have their own agency over their lives anymore. It's very frustrating.
Yeah.
And unrealistic, and doesn't make me have any, like, it doesn't motivate me anymore like it used to.
Yeah.